Sea of Blue showing up today to honor and support police officers who are under siege in America right now. Across the country, cops are being gunned down every single day. 6 law enforcement officers were shot in less than 48 hours. And today in New York, the NYPD honoring fallen officer Jason Rivera, who was murdered execution style along with his partner after they were ambushed by a felon with a massive rap sheet. The city's new police commissioner saying it's time to respect police again and push back against the anarchy that's being unleashed.
We may not match the sacrifice made by Jason, but we can try to match his incredible sense of service. We may not match his courage, but we can try to match his passion. The horror that took their lives is an affront to every decent, caring human being in this city and beyond. Those who seek to dim the beacons of hope across these 5 boroughs, look outside. Hear our voices. See the presence in this cathedral. The NYPD will never give up this city.
And the widow of Officer Rivera not holding back and calling out radical district attorneys who are putting cops and the people they protect at risk.
The system continues to fail us. We are not safe anymore. Not even the members of the service. I know you were tired of these laws, especially the ones from the new DA.
Today was a turning point in the city, Judge. Yeah. I'm sure you felt that. I felt that. The people of the city felt that. And it's about damn time. And I believe we are going to go forward from here. Do you believe that?
Your lips to God's ears. First of all, let me say that the speeches were powerful in St. Patrick's. When the widow of Jason Rivera got up and talked about her husband being tired of the news laws, especially of the new DA, she got a standing ovation by the priest, by the cardinal. Everyone gave her a standing ovation. Here's the problem. We, the public, have been silent. It's this minority that is just so loud that they are literally silencing the rest of us who are just kind of going along with our lives. Here's the bottom line. It's criminal privilege right now. There is a war on cops. You're absolutely right, but it's time to end it. And the way to end it is with governors who talk out of both sides of their mouths. Governor Hochul was at this funeral today. She says, on the one hand, I'm not going to change the bail law, so we're going to keep letting the criminals out, but I'm going to work with Mayor Adams. She's got to go. She takes one side or the other. Alvin Bragg, whoever the new governor is, hopefully we'll put him out of office. He does not deserve to be in office. But we've got to fine-tune it to the individuals. The judge, there's a particular judge, Dennis Boyle, who continuously lets out these young people with gun crimes over and over. 3 times let a young kid out on different guns, and then finally he ends up shooting a cop. Mm-hmm. These are judges who have the power but don't use it. It's time to fine-tune it, because we're all going to lose. We can't survive in our society with this chaos. And it is a turning point because we stand strong. And I've stood in many of those lines. We are strong. We are united. That blue line isn't thin. It's a lot thicker than you think.
Greg Gutfeld, your thoughts on today?
Well, I mean, those pictures were amazing. Yeah. And I do agree that I think it's a turning point, but it shouldn't be. If you're surprised by this, you're an idiot. Because, we're in this memory erasing industry where one story knocks out another story like you're playing a game of pool. But you have to remember how we got here. There was almost a 2-year demoralization of police, championed by the media and by the activists, right? Married to progressive policies and an ideology that we're in an oppressive society and therefore everything has to change. A year ago, if you turned on CNN or MSNBC, they would portray the police as basically MS-13 with better uniforms. They were demonized. So now you flip around the channels today and you see on CNN and other places, they're covering the funerals, right? Because now cops are getting shot and left and right, and some of them are dying. And so they realize that they created the atmosphere for random violence by basically negating the authority of the police. And so now they cover the funeral because they sense the tide is turning and they're caught in the undertow. And they do deserve to drown, metaphorically speaking. The media hates covering crime because if it does not personally involve them, why does it matter? And then it does. Their own beliefs open the door to progressive disasters like the no bail, no cash bail. And you don't need context to cover crime. You only need two variables, victim and victimizer. Media hates that because that's too easy. They need to have context, which means root causes and systemic racism, and he was abandoned as a child. And so suddenly the criminal is decriminalized and the victim is forgotten. Politics becomes the end game. That's where we're at. We already covered CNN basically saying that our coverage of crime was an Instagram filter. I hope they sent Brian Stelter to the funerals and took pictures of the mourners and used the correct Instagram filter when they did it, and maybe they get some good retweets out of it.
So, Jillian, you're Washington-based, is that true? Are you feeling what is going on up here in New York? Is this a New York-centric thing, or it's a national situation, right?
Yeah, carjackings in the last year in D.C. have reached record highs. It's looking so far like at the beginning of 2022, that trend is continuing upwards. I will tell you that on Thursday, 5 people were shot at a hotel, one of them fatally in Washington, D.C. So crime, violent crime, is a major problem there as well. To today's event, I will say that Jason Rivera's widow was correct when she said that the system failed him, because in a very poignant sense, his death is not only the responsibility of his killer, by which I mean at least a small part of the blame here goes to the city and to its leadership. I'm someone who usually looks to policy solutions for the nation's biggest problems, but fixing the policy here is only a small part of the solution. You know, decriminalizing violent crime is a real part of the problem, but you're not going to fix this until you get at the anti-police sentiment that is running rampant across the country. I don't know how you do that, but it takes all of us, meaning everybody in America, all of us Americans standing together to try and combat it. I think it's a tall order, but I think that's where the focus should go now when you talk about moving forward. We all need to get involved.
And we should be more explicit when we talk about the system. You mentioned the name of the judge. We know Bragg in the district attorney's office. We know who the governor is. We know the Speaker of the House or the majority leader in the state legislature. They write these bail laws and they don't reform them. We know who the people are. This has to be personalized for the message to get through.
Absolutely.
There's nothing more than to echo. My heart goes out to the Moore family and the Rivera family. I do think it's a turning point, Your Honor, and from this standpoint and everybody's comments around the table, this widow's comments and her words and the energy and passion that she showed is going to be shown all across this state. To your point, Jesse, those who are willing to fund efforts to change communities, there ought to be an effort funded right now. Let her words be the only words in the commercial to recall any DA that does not implement tough laws, any legislature that does not reform bail reform, and let those be the words to help energize, re-energize, and rekindle, to Gil Scott-Heron's comments about how we support police officers. I think every community in this city, black, white, Hispanic, Asian, all want to support and all do support police officers. That widow's comments should not only help do that, but you may get a little upset with me now. The gun that killed those 2 officers was a ghost gun from Philadelphia. We ought to figure out ways to enact smart gun laws. Not only do we need bail reform, not only do we need activists who want to reform police departments, we have to support our cops first before we can do any of this. And I hope those words today resonate not only with DA Bragg and the chief of police and the mayor of this town, but every DA in this country, and more importantly, for those of us who want bail reform, every legislator in Albany ought to have to listen to what this widow said today. No woman should ever have to say those things. No wife or mom should ever have to say those things, but she did, and we should try our hardest to limit that from ever happening again.
All right, here.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.